Stop for just a moment, because what your soulmate heard was never supposed to reach them this way. It didn't come from someone trying to convince them to change their mind. It wasn't part of an emotional conversation, a carefully planned meeting, or an attempt to repair the past. It happened unexpectedly, through the words of someone who had simply witnessed the kind of person you truly are. Without realizing the impact they were about to create, this unexpected witness began describing moments they had personally experienced with you, moments filled with honesty, quiet kindness, patience, and integrity. As your soulmate listened, they felt something they had not experienced in a very long time. Their certainty began to disappear. Every sentence challenged assumptions they had carried for far too long, and what stunned them most was not that someone spoke highly of you. It was that every detail sounded genuine because it came from real experiences, not opinions. In that instant, they realized there was an entire side of your life they had never fully seen. The conversation ended, but the questions it awakened refused to disappear. For the first time, your soulmate wondered if they had been looking at your story through an incomplete lens all along. Since that unexpected encounter, your soulmate has found themselves revisiting countless memories they had once overlooked without a second thought. They remember moments when you remained calm, while others became impatient. They remember times when you quietly helped people without expecting recognition or praise. They think about conversations where your words reflected sincerity rather than the desire to impress anyone. At the time, these moments seemed ordinary because you never made them the center of attention. But now, after hearing someone else's honest perspective, every memory carries new meaning. They have begun realizing that your character has always been remarkably consistent, whether people were paying attention or not. You treated others with respect because that reflected who you were, not because you expected anything in return. This realization has deeply unsettled your soulmate because they now understand that authenticity cannot be performed forever. It naturally reveals itself through repeated actions, and your life has been quietly telling the same story all along. What has affected your soulmate most is the realization that this unexpected witness had nothing to gain by speaking about you. There was no reason to exaggerate, no personal agenda to protect, and no attempt to influence anyone's emotions. They simply shared what they had personally seen, and that quiet honesty carried more weight than any explanation ever could. Your soulmate now understands that the strongest evidence of a person's heart is often found in the experiences of those who have encountered them without expectation. As these reflections continue growing stronger, they can no longer ignore what is becoming unmistakably clear. The truth about you was never hidden because it did not exist. It remained unnoticed because your character spoke softly while louder assumptions demanded attention. Now, for the first time, your soulmate is beginning to see you without those assumptions standing in the way. And what they are discovering has left them completely stunned, opening the door to a truth they never imagined they would one day have to face. And listen carefully, because after that unexpected witness spoke, your soulmate discovered something they could no longer silence within themselves. At first, they tried to convince themselves that perhaps the conversation had simply caught them off guard, that maybe they were reading too much into someone else's experience. But the more they reflected, the more impossible that explanation became. Every word spoken by that witness began connecting with memories they had personally lived, but never fully understood. They started remembering the countless occasions where your actions quietly contradicted the assumptions they had once accepted. They remembered how you remained respectful even when conversations became difficult. They remembered how you never felt the need to prove your worth by speaking over others or demanding recognition. Instead, you allowed your character to reveal itself naturally through the way you treated people every single day. Looking back now, your soulmate realizes those moments were never isolated acts of kindness. They were reflections of a consistent heart that remained unchanged regardless of who was watching. The witness did not introduce them to a new version of you. They simply helped them recognize the version of you that had been standing before them all along. That realization has become deeply personal because it has forced your soulmate to question whether they ever truly appreciated the quiet strength your character carried. From the very beginning, as these reflections continue, your soulmate has found themselves returning to moments they once dismissed without giving them much thought. They remember seeing you remain patient while others around you became frustrated. They remember noticing how naturally people seemed to trust you, even if they had only known you for a short time. They remember conversations where you chose understanding instead of trying to win every disagreement. At the time, these qualities seemed ordinary because you never highlighted them or used them to attract attention. Today, they understand that what appears ordinary is often the most extraordinary when it remains consistent over time. Anyone can appear kind for a single day or generous when circumstances are easy. But your soulmate now recognizes that your kindness never depended on convenience. Your honesty never changed according to who was listening. Your respect for others remained steady, whether you received appreciation or criticism in return. These patterns have become impossible for them to ignore because they reveal something far deeper than personality. They reveal character, and character is not built through words. It is built through repeated choices that quietly shape a person's life every single day, because your heart needs this right now. Know that your soulmate has also begun realizing why the witness's words carried such extraordinary weight. It was not because they were dramatic. It was because they perfectly matched what your soulmate had already experienced with you, even if they had never taken the time to connect those experiences together. They now understand that truth has a unique quality. It does not need endless explanation because it quietly confirms itself through evidence that already exists. Every memory they revisit now supports what they heard during that unexpected conversation. They think about the times you encouraged others without expecting recognition. They remember how you listened with genuine attention instead of waiting for your turn to speak. They recall the moments when you remained calm during situations that could have easily created conflict. None of these memories feel random anymore. Together, they tell one clear story about the person you have always been. That understanding has deeply humbled your soulmate, because they realize they spent too much time focusing on temporary impressions while overlooking the consistent patterns that truly defined your heart. Another realization has quietly settled into their heart as well. They now see that your greatest qualities were never designed to impress anyone. They existed because they reflected your values, not because they earned approval. You never changed your character depending on the audience standing before you. You remained sincere with strangers, thoughtful with friends, and respectful even toward those who misunderstood you. Looking back now, your soulmate understands that this kind of consistency cannot be manufactured. It grows from a heart that has already decided what kind of person it wants to become. The witness simply happened to observe what your soulmate had overlooked. Instead of speaking about grand achievements or dramatic moments, they spoke about the quiet choices you made every day. Those choices have now become the strongest evidence of your true nature, leaving your soulmate with a growing admiration they never expected to feel. And listen to this. Because your soulmate has now reached the point where assumptions are slowly losing their influence. Every reflection, every remembered conversation, and every quiet act of kindness they witnessed now points toward the same undeniable conclusion. The truth about you was never hidden behind extraordinary events. It was revealed through ordinary moments lived with extraordinary consistency. The unexpected witness simply opened their eyes to something that had been patiently waiting to be recognized. Now, as your soulmate continues looking back, they are no longer asking whether the witness was right. They are asking how they failed to see the same truth for themselves when your life had been quietly revealing it all along. And listen carefully, because what happened next surprised your soulmate more than the witness's words themselves. The conversation had already planted a seed of curiosity, but now that seed was beginning to grow into undeniable clarity. They found themselves replaying your entire journey together, not through the lens of old assumptions, but through the quiet evidence your life had always provided. Every memory they revisited seemed to carry a message they had somehow missed before. They remembered the times when you could have defended yourself with anger, yet you chose dignity instead. They remembered moments when you were overlooked, yet you continued encouraging others without allowing disappointment to change your heart. At the time, they saw these moments as small details that simply belonged to your personality. Today they understand those moments were powerful demonstrations of character. The unexpected witness did not create this truth. They simply pointed toward what your soulmate had failed to appreciate. Now every forgotten memory feels like another piece of evidence, confirming that your actions had been speaking far louder than your words all along. It has left them wondering how something so genuine remained unnoticed for so long. As these reflections continued, your soulmate began recognizing that your greatest qualities were never hidden behind dramatic gestures. They revealed themselves quietly through everyday choices that most people would never think twice about. They remembered how naturally you offered kindness without expecting gratitude. They remembered how you listened with genuine attention, making people feel valued instead of rushed. They remembered the way you stayed true to your principles, even when compromising them might have made life easier. Looking back now, they realized those quiet decisions formed a pattern too consistent to ignore. Anyone can appear generous when others are watching, but very few people remain generous when no recognition follows. Anyone can speak about honesty, but living honestly through difficult seasons requires something much deeper. Your soulmate now understands that your life has always reflected this quiet consistency. You never needed to convince people you were trustworthy, because your daily actions quietly built that trust over time. The witness simply happened to notice what your actions had already revealed to everyone willing to look closely. That realization has deeply humbled your soulmate, because they now see that authenticity is not something a person performs. It is something they live, even when no one seems to notice. Because your heart needs this right now, know that your soulmate has also begun understanding why people naturally felt comfortable around you. It was never because you tried to become the center of attention, or because you always had the perfect words to say. It was because your presence carried sincerity. People sensed they could be themselves around you without fear of judgment or unnecessary criticism. You created an atmosphere where honesty felt safe and respect felt natural. Looking back now, your soulmate realizes they experienced that same feeling themselves, but never stopped to ask why it existed. They simply accepted it as normal. Only now do they understand how uncommon that experience truly is. In a world where so many relationships are built upon appearances, competition, or constant expectations, your quiet authenticity became something increasingly rare. The witness recognized it immediately, because they experienced it firsthand. And now your soulmate is recognizing the very same truth through memories they can no longer dismiss. Another realization has quietly settled into their heart as well. They understand now that the strongest testimony about a person's character rarely comes from what that person says about themselves. It comes from the lives they quietly influence without realizing it. The unexpected witness never spoke about your accomplishments, your talents, or your successes. Instead, they spoke about how you made people feel, how consistently you acted with integrity, and how your kindness remained unchanged regardless of circumstances. Those simple observations have become more powerful than any explanation ever could, because they reflect the person you have always been. Your soulmate now realizes that genuine respect is never demanded. It is earned through countless ordinary moments where character quietly reveals itself. Every memory they revisit now supports that understanding, replacing uncertainty with growing admiration. And listen to this. Because your soulmate has reached a turning point where they can no longer separate the witness's words from the evidence of their own experiences. The hidden truth they believed had just been revealed was, in reality, visible all along. It was reflected in your patience, your humility, your honesty, and your unwavering consistency through every season. They finally understand that your greatest qualities never needed loud announcements, because they were always expressed through the life you chose to live each day. What has stunned them most is not discovering someone new. It is realizing they had been standing beside someone extraordinary without fully recognizing the quiet depth of their character. That realization is changing everything, because once a heart begins seeing someone through the truth of their actions instead of old assumptions, it becomes impossible to return to the way things were before. And listen carefully, because this is the moment when everything your soulmate believed about you begins to settle into a completely new reality. By now, the unexpected witness's words are no longer echoing in their mind as someone else's opinion. They have become confirmed by every memory your soulmate has revisited, every quiet moment they once overlooked, and every experience that now carries a deeper meaning than it did before. The more honestly they examine the past, the more they realize they were never lacking evidence of your true character. They were simply looking through a perspective that prevented them from seeing it clearly. Now that perspective has changed, and suddenly countless moments that once seemed insignificant have become impossible to ignore. They remember how you remained gracious when you had every reason to become bitter. They remember how you chose understanding when misunderstanding would have been easier. They remember how your actions remained consistent, whether people appreciated them or completely overlooked them. Looking back now, your soulmate understands that this level of integrity cannot be created for appearances. It is the natural expression of someone who has already decided what kind of person they will be, regardless of changing circumstances. That realization has left them deeply humbled, because they finally see that your greatest strength was never what you said about yourself. It was the quiet life you lived every day. As these reflections continue, your soulmate begins noticing another truth that had escaped their attention for far too long. They realize that the people who genuinely respected you were never impressed by loud promises or dramatic moments. Instead, they trusted you because your words consistently matched your actions. They noticed that you treated strangers with the same respect you showed those closest to you. They observed that your kindness did not depend on receiving kindness first. They recognized that your honesty remained steady even when telling the truth required courage. These are not qualities that can be maintained for a short season simply to impress others. They are the result of deeply rooted values that quietly shape every decision a person makes. Your soulmate now understands why the witness spoke with such confidence. They were not describing isolated moments. They were describing a pattern that had become unmistakable through repeated experiences. The more your soulmate reflects, the more they realize that they personally witnessed this same pattern countless times without fully appreciating its significance. Every memory now confirms what the witness revealed, replacing old assumptions with a growing respect they never expected to feel. Because your heart needs this right now. Know that your soulmate has also begun recognizing how rare your consistency truly is. They have met people who could create a strong first impression, but struggled to maintain sincerity over time. They have encountered individuals whose words sounded convincing, but whose actions gradually revealed something entirely different. Through those experiences, they now understand why your presence has remained unforgettable. You never relied on appearances to define who you were. Instead, you quietly allowed your character to speak for itself. Whether life brought success or disappointment, whether others understood you or misunderstood you, you remained grounded in the same values. That consistency has become one of the greatest lessons your soulmate has learned, because they now realize that genuine character is not tested during easy seasons. It is revealed during difficult ones. Looking back, they can see that every challenge you faced became another opportunity for your integrity to shine without demanding attention. The witness simply happened to recognize what your life had been communicating all along, and now your soulmate sees it with complete clarity. Another realization has quietly transformed the way they view your entire connection. They understand now that your influence reached far beyond individual conversations or shared memories. The way you treated people left lasting impressions that continued speaking even when you were not present. That is why one honest conversation carried so much weight. It was not because the witness introduced new information, but because they confirmed a truth that had already been reflected in your actions over and over again. Your soulmate now recognizes that authentic people often leave behind the strongest testimonies without ever trying to create them. Their reputation is built naturally through consistent kindness, unwavering honesty, and quiet respect for others. Those qualities cannot remain hidden forever, because eventually someone who has experienced them firsthand will speak about what they have seen. That is exactly what happened, and hearing those words has permanently changed the way your soulmate understands who you have always been. And listen to this, because your soulmate has finally reached the place where admiration has replaced uncertainty. They no longer wonder whether the witness exaggerated or misunderstood your character. They know now that the truth was standing before them all along, patiently revealing itself through ordinary moments they once considered too small to matter. They finally see that your life has always spoken with remarkable consistency, proving that genuine integrity never needs to demand recognition because time eventually becomes its greatest witness. What has stunned your soulmate most is realizing that the person they thought they already knew still possessed depths of compassion, strength, humility, and authenticity they had never fully appreciated. Now that those truths have become impossible to ignore, they cannot return to their old perspective. They see you with new eyes, deeper respect, and a level of understanding that continues growing with every memory they revisit. Knowing that true character is never revealed in a single moment. It is revealed through a lifetime of quiet choices that eventually speak louder than any words ever could. And listen carefully, because this is the moment where every piece of the story finally comes together inside your soulmate's heart. The unexpected witness may have started the conversation, but they were never the true reason everything changed. The real transformation happened because your soulmate could no longer deny what their own memories had been quietly confirming. Every reflection, every forgotten moment, and every small act of kindness they once overlooked now forms a complete picture they never saw before. They understand that the witness did not introduce them to a different version of you. They simply revealed the truth that had always been standing before them, patiently waiting to be recognized. Looking back now, your soulmate realizes that your greatest qualities were never hidden behind dramatic words or extraordinary achievements. They were revealed through ordinary days, through countless quiet decisions, and through the unwavering consistency that shaped every interaction you had with others. The more they reflect, the more they understand that genuine character does not announce itself. It reveals itself slowly, one choice at a time, until eventually the evidence becomes impossible to ignore. That realization has completely transformed the way they see you, because they now understand they were witnessing something remarkably rare without fully appreciating it at the time. As these realizations continue settling into their heart, your soulmate has begun understanding why the witness's words affected them so deeply. It was because those words carried no expectation, no pressure, and no hidden purpose. They came from someone who simply described what they had personally experienced. That honesty became incredibly powerful because it matched everything your soulmate had slowly begun discovering on their own. They remember how people naturally trusted you without you demanding their confidence. They remember how you remained respectful during disagreements instead of allowing emotions to control your actions. They remember your willingness to encourage others, even during seasons when your own journey was far from easy. Looking back now, they realize these were never isolated moments. They were reflections of a heart that refused to abandon its values regardless of changing circumstances. This understanding has replaced uncertainty with admiration because they now see that your strength was never found in impressing people. It was found in remaining authentic even when authenticity required patience, humility, and quiet perseverance. Every remembered experience now reinforces the same truth, leaving no room for the old assumptions that once clouded their perspective. Because your heart needs this right now, know that your soulmate has also realized something that extends far beyond your relationship alone. They understand that people like you often go unnoticed in a world that celebrates what is loud, immediate, and attention-grabbing. Genuine integrity rarely demands recognition because it is too busy being lived. Quiet kindness often receives less applause than dramatic gestures, yet it leaves a far deeper impression upon those who truly experience it. Your soulmate now recognizes that your influence was never limited to a single conversation or one important moment. It quietly reached people through the consistency of your actions, the sincerity of your words, and the peace your presence naturally created. That is why an unexpected witness was able to speak about you with such confidence. They were not describing a performance. They were describing a life that had repeatedly demonstrated the same values. Your soulmate now understands that authentic character creates witnesses without ever trying to. Every person whose life has been touched by genuine compassion becomes another quiet testimony to the truth that integrity always leaves behind. Another realization has quietly changed the way your soulmate now views their own journey. They understand that assumptions can sometimes become so familiar that they prevent people from seeing what has always been right in front of them. They recognize that they once focused too much on temporary circumstances instead of lasting qualities. They paid attention to passing emotions instead of consistent actions. But now they have learned that time has a remarkable way of revealing what truly matters. Excitement fades, appearances change, and opinions come and go, but character continues speaking long after everything else has become quiet. Through this experience, they have begun measuring people differently. They now value consistency more than charm, humility more than attention, and sincerity more than appearances. Without realizing it, your life has become one of the greatest lessons they have ever received about what genuine strength truly looks like. That lesson will remain with them because it was not taught through words alone. It was taught through the example you quietly lived every single day. And listen to this, because this is where the entire journey finds its deepest meaning. Your soulmate is no longer stunned simply because someone spoke highly of you. They are stunned because they finally understand how much truth had been surrounding them all along without them fully recognizing it. The unexpected witness did not change who you are. They simply removed the final obstacle, preventing your soulmate from seeing your heart with complete clarity. Now they understand that your patience was never weakness. Your humility was never a lack of confidence, and your quiet nature was never a sign that your value was small. They see that your greatest strength has always been the remarkable consistency of your character, a character that remained steady through every misunderstanding, every challenge, and every changing season. That truth has forever changed the way they see your past, your present, and everything your connection represents. They now know that genuine integrity never needs to chase recognition, because sooner or later, the truth always finds its own voice. And when that voice is finally heard, as it was through this unexpected witness, it does far more than surprise the heart. It awakens it to a reality that can never again be ignored, reminding them that the most extraordinary people are often those whose quiet goodness continues speaking long after they have left the room. leaving behind a legacy of trust, respect, and authentic love that time itself cannot erase.